Hey everyone, my name is Pascal Liberté. I'm a freelance Rails developer, and I am learning to get better at Rails. So I've been doing I've been building Rails for a few years now, and building with other technologies before, but now Rails is getting is something that I like a lot. Fits my brain. It has a very modest JavaScript approach uh, from the people that are building it, and so I'm aligned with that preference, and so that's why I'm building stuff in Rails now. Um, the stuff I'm getting better at uh, in the past few episodes was getting better at testing more consistently, and now I'm doing a little bit of a of a switch to getting better at doing turbo stuff, turbo frames, turbo stream, those kinds of things. And in order for me to get better at those things, I'm practicing. So I'm putting in the reps, as they say, by changing an actual app, by working on an app, and getting better at those elements by just practicing. Last time I was working on something, and at the end of the session, I couldn't really finish in time, but I got to where I wanted to be. I got inline editing through Turbo Frame, so I got a form that sort of inline replaces right in there, um, and so it allows me to update these fields. If I put in something that's not right, for example, a page number that's over the total pages, then I'll get an error shown. So all that is pretty good. That's where I'm at now. And my next roadblock is to do authorization, to do things that allow me to to be faster at creating controllers, because when you do turbo, you have a lot of controllers. You have a lot of things that you return back from the server where you generate the HTML and you come back, but you got to authorize each one of those requests properly. You got to make sure that the thing that you're requesting is yours, that you have access to read it, that if you're updating something, you can update it, that the overall URL structure is sane, meaning that if you're not using shallow routes, for example, if you're using long URLs like this one, then that your book, for example, a book and a reading group inside of a book, that the note is part of a reading group, it's part of the books, that all those things are authorized, and that all those things are part of the things, like that the note is part of the group and the group is part of the book. I could have just gone through to use shallow routes as it's recommended, but in this case I didn't. So I've got to get good at the authorization part, and I'm using for my app. I've started it using Bullet Train, the sort of like the SaaS starter kit, and it comes with its own authorization layer that uses CanCanCan. Then what I did is I went and I'm following Joe Masilotti's railsdevs.com public repo, where he's evolving stuff in real time, and he's using another authorization gem called Pundit. And I'm kind of curious. I don't have a clue about exactly how these things work, and I'm going to get better at those in this session. But first, I wanted to go over a few turbo stream tricks. So when you get to turbo stream tricks on how to update other parts of the page with turbo stream, that I saw in the wild. One I contributed an answer to, and the other one is Matt Swanson showing off a little demo of something he's doing using TurboStream. So the first one is this discussion on the Hotwire discussion group where he says that the gentleman says, I want to have a like button, and then he wants to have an ability to be able to have flash messages somewhere else on the page. So it's a bit like as if he had a he had, say, something like Twitter, and let's just see here. I'm just gonna. So first, I'm gonna just say I'm live. So say you had like a like button, like a heart button, and once you click it, it does something on the server, and then comes back and edits the amounts of likes that you have. But then somewhere else on the page, you get like a place where you get notices or flash messages appearing. How do you deal with that with turbo frames and turbo streams and stuff like that? So first, I'll just say that I'm live. And the first thing, okay, so let's say you have that. His frustration was with was with the fact that he didn't know how to update a few things. One of them, he would like the heart to have like a tooltip, like a bootstrap tooltip. And the other one, do I get that right? Tooltip. I'd like to have a tooltip shown. Where's the tooltip? I'd like to have. Yeah, see something like that appear at the top of a like button. That's probably showing the amount of likes. And the second part is he would like to be able to show that those notices somewhere else on the page. So my answer was to do something like this: wrap the like button inside. Wrap the like button inside a turbo frame, meaning that whenever you click inside it, it's going to do something, and the result of it, if the page has another heart button, another like button, with the same turbo frame name, the same sort of like container thing, it's going to go and get it and replace the element in the page right now with whatever you got coming from that response. The whole page won't update. Just this part here, which has the same turbo frame ID, basically, an equivalent turbo frame on the resulting page, and then it will kind of like just replace it in place. That's great. You'll be able to hover over it, see the amount of likes that you have upgraded to the new number. But two things. He would like that tooltip to work. Bootstrap tooltips don't work out of the box. You've got to make it work. Since it's a new entrant on the page, you got to kind of rewire it so that it works again. But the second part is this notice that you would have shown at the top if there's a successful like, or if there's an error or something like that. How do you do that? Well, my answer is you can put a place somewhere else on the page where you get your errors show up, and then you put it given an ID. And then with the payload of the little heart, of the little like, the replacement like, basically, with the payload, then use TurboStream in here. So let's say you have something called notices somewhere else on the page. That's where you put your flash messages. And there is a notice that is packaged with the like button. Put it inside a turbo stream of type replace. So what that does is that it will have an HTML tag. Very simply, it'll have an HTML tag that will be of a type template. It won't be a real thing. It won't be a real element. It'll be a tag that's going to be a template tag, so it won't be visible. But inside that tag, there will be what's called a turbo stream element of type replace. And given the right parameters, and in this case, replace will just you replace the notices ID with the contents of whatever's inside here. So the immediate appearance of this thing into the DOM once the new like button gets, folded in, automatically the turbo stream is going to get caught. It will grab the new notices and shove them in the notices ID somewhere else on the page, and boom, you've got an easy way to do that. Turbo streams, we kind of think of them as a new way to return HTML. So there's like analogous to a new type of AJAX, and it's kind of weird. You don't have to do that. You can just create an HTML element inside the page of type turbo stream, and then the turbo stuff is going to pick it up and replace it at the right spot in the page. Does that make sense? I think it's pretty cool. The second thing, hey, Cristiano, glad you like it. Okay, so the second part is this stuff here that Matt Swanson is talking about, and I will show you right away. So this is how it works. He's got a little menu. You click it, and then you can update the plant status. And so by clicking it, you can update it. Now, what ends up happening is that he doesn't have any React, he doesn't have any Vue or anything like that. How does he, on click, update this thing at the top? In this case, he is not replacing any turbo frames. He's not using the turbo stream tag or anything like that. What ends up happening is that every menu item like this, they are all buttons, little forms with little buttons inside there. So the forms are being submitted to someplace, and what's returned, and this is the turbo stream weirdness. It's not like an AJAX response, it's a turbo stream response. That turbo stream response gets infused into the page someplace, and it targets this element here. So the turbo stream response only includes the new status button, the new status menu item, I should say, and that's it. So the form never really triggers a page update. It is caught as a button to that where there is basically no response, and so there is no, when you click that button that the form submits, it doesn't go anywhere. It just gets caught. The turbo mechanism sees that there's a turbo stream response, and then puts a turbo stream response somewhere on the page. That gets picked up. This thing gets updated. Voila. Super small, but essentially this button here and this menu here, they're basically all server-side rendered. And it's kind of neat because what ends up happening is that you really do have a change in it's actually a plan status. You get an update into the plan status saved to the database, and then you get like a confirmation from from the server back with an actual the real menu that if you reload the page, that's the menu you're going to be seeing. So I think that's kind of neat. I don't know what you guys think. So now I want to address my authorization, difficulties. So I want to get good, and I want to know what I'm doing. Basically, I want to know what's going on under the hood. So I've got a notes controller, and I've got no authorization happening here. I'm loading the note, I'm loading the book, and I'm loading the reading group. I'm not checking if the book is the same as the URL. I'm not checking if the reading group is the same as the URL. I'm not doing any of that stuff. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using that's not the right thing. I'm going to be using CanCanCan for this project, but I would like to understand also Pundit. CanCanCan and Pundit are two authorization layers. And given the fact that I'm using Bullet Train as my starter kit, it comes with an implementation of CanCanCan so that it does a lot of smarts. So I'm going to put this away. Actually, no, I'm going to keep this. And this is the part that, oops. This is the part that I'm going to hide below. Okay. Shove it to my other screen. Okay, so CanCanCan and Pundit are two authorization gems, and they work differently. Bullet Train uses CanCanCan, and Rails devs is using Pundit. From what I understand, CanCanCan has this load and authorize resource helper that's pretty interesting. It is being used here more than once by Bullet Train, and there's some magic happening. I want to understand that magic so I understand what I'm getting into. But while I was getting ready for the stream, I saw that there was 3 instances or more, because if there's a bunch of through class names, then load and authorized resource would be used many times over to authorize that resource. That resource, its parent, that resource for different, different actions, like member actions or collection actions. So member actions are going to be the index, new, those collection actions. Collection actions are index, new, create, and in our case, we got reorder for some of them, show, edit, update, destroy for member actions. And so it's so this Bullet Train implementation adds some smarts so that you can only pass in a single one of these account load and authorize resource methods to your controller, and you're gonna get it done. However, I don't understand it because I've tried to implement it and it didn't do what I want. So obviously, I've done something that I wasn't too that I wasn't doing right. It could be that it's not inferring the right parents. It's not doing all that those important tasks. So I got to fix that. But first, I'm going to understand how Pundit works. So in Rails devs, they use Pundit. I mean, Joe uses Pundit. And I want to understand what it does. What I understand from Pundit is that it sets up policies. And a policy is basically the definition class for a specific is there a developer policy? Policies? Yes, for a specific resource. So say you've got developers, then a developer policy will define a bunch of methods to check whether a developer resource can be updated. It can only be updated, can it update? Only updated when the user equals a record dot user. So this is essentially the way that that Pundit does its business. So what if we go a one step up? If you go into application policy, you'll be able to see a bunch of methods or a bunch of checks. Can it index? Can it show? Can it create? Can it? And you can override all those things when a policy is a descendant of application policy. So in this case, all of them are update false by default, and developer policy in this case is overwritten with update. And it's not checking the super. It's not like doing anything to call the parent class instance of a method. It just overrides. And so that's how it does it. And that sounds simple. And he's able to test it separately. So he's got like a developer policy test, update their own developer profile. I can do that. I cannot update another developer's profile. And he can run these tests by way of by not having to like load up a full browser test to navigate to another developer's profile. He can just test it right at the member level, at the model level. And so that's okay. That's pretty neat. At the CanCanCan side, I don't have the same. I'm pretty sure that I might be able to test abilities. Abilities test. Is that something like that? Ability test. And in this case, it's a module, team member scenarios. Those are test cases. Non-team member scenarios. So there's a bunch of scenarios in here. And you can have individual tests done for that. And CanCanCan uses the can question mark method to check whether you have, for example, whether you can manage a specific object or a specific class. Can you destroy a new membership? A membership object. So that gives me stuff to look into more. And now one of my questions for CanCanCan is, what is it that I have to write? So I'm going to look further into the account load and authorized resource sort of compression, conceptual compression. I'm going to probably try to write my own load and authorized resource method calls so that I can get the right things to be authorized in my notes controller, because I'm looking for the note, but I'm also looking to make sure that the book and the reading group are part of the same thing. Whether I need to do a load and authorize resource for that, I'm not really sure. So I've got to figure those things out. But that's basically where I'm at right now. And of course, what I'll be doing is I'll probably be starting by writing a test to check whether I can edit somebody else's note. And I'm gonna get a test that's gonna fail or pass or fail depending on whether I've got the abilities set up right. So that's basically it, I think, for this part. And I think I'm gonna stop here for that. So thanks for watching. And next time I'm probably gonna have some headway done on this authorizations business, and I'll be ready to be able to write some plenty of controllers for new stuff that I'll be able to edit, and I'll be able to do it much faster. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching.